This episode of the SwitchCast is produced by Joe C., our honored patron and Switch Knight.
Hi everyone, I'm KC.
And I'm JV.
And this is the SwitchCast, the podcast for the Switch enthusiast. And we have a delightfully packed show this week for everybody.
Yeah, I know. This is the eve of Splatoon's release, and I know everyone is just aching for that game at this point.
Yeah, no, I am very excited. I feel like we just had ARMS, which was like the last big title we are excited to talk about so much. And now we have Splatoon, a title I'm actually a little more excited about.
Than ARMS even?
Well, because ARMS I had to build up. Like, they had to win me over. ARMS, I was not a sealed deal for me, that I wasn't definitely going to buy it. But over time and over a while of the test punches and stuff, they sold me on it. But Splatoon, I just always knew I wanted to play that, and that was a game that was going to be high on my list of priorities to play.
Yeah, and, you know, their strategy of releasing information about Splatoon over a course of time is such a good move, because a lot of people I know who aren't really competitive third-person shooter gamers are getting Splatoon just because of the alternate modes in it.
I mean, oh yeah.
I think that's really great. Like, Rin, who was on the podcast a while back, you know she plays Stardew Valley, she plays Minecraft, but she's getting Splatoon because there's a wider appeal for that game than I even expected.
I am not a first-person shooter fan either, even though you've corrected me and told me it's a third-person shooter technically, but...
Right, it's an arena shooter.
Yeah, it's a competitive game, and that's at least the primary thing it's known for. But yeah, all these people who just, that's not their thing, but they still want to enjoy it, either for the co-op or they're still going to have fun playing it online versus, because it's still a fun game, even if you're not like a die-hard, I want to be top-ranked player. And that attracts the kind of player that I like playing with. And those are the kind of people that I have more fun playing with. So I'm very hyped to dive into this. And let's not forget, the one player has been looking pretty awesome too. I think it's a more robust one player game and just a little more charming and fun and lighthearted than the rest of these, you know, that of this vein.
Right. The single player modes consist of the salmon run and the normal story mode, which is a lot of single player content for the game. And I think that was an active choice for Nintendo. Honestly, of all the games for people who don't play shooters to get into, Splatoon is the perfect casual competitive game for people. Since even if you're not a heavy hardcore sniper or really good at killing people, you can still contribute to the team based on the ink. It's so great.
All that aside, though, we do have a lot of other things to talk about and cover for today's episode. We have a lot of games that we've been playing, actually. So JV and I have a lot to talk about in the playtime.
Yeah, a lot.
Of course, there's some news and a surprising bit with the one app that has dropped that we want to at least touch upon, even though we really can't dive too much into it. And of course, we have the community pulse, and we have a lot of good questions going on in there. I also wanted to touch on, before we move out of the metagame here, I started doing something on the Patreon that I thought would be interesting for anyone who's a backer of us over there. I started doing a weekly or so, just kind of my thoughts or a little bit of a journal on the status of the SwitchCast. It's only for patrons to see, and it's kind of my way of reaching out to you guys for your insights and opinions on some of the bigger ideas that we're playing with right now, and maybe some of the possible directions that we're going on. So even if you are a $1 backer on Patreon, and maybe you don't actually go to the Patreon site, you just kind of set it and forget it, you might want to check it out and just kind of see what I've been saying and give us a little feedback, or, you know, it might just be entertaining reads for you.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, you're really surprisingly transparent in those Patreon weekly postings because we really want to open up our process to you guys to give us feedback, to let us know what we're doing right and wrong, and give us ideas for how to improve in the future. So yeah, definitely check those out if you're a Patreon backer.
Yeah, and actually, tomorrow or Friday, I do plan to put something on there, a pretty important question I would love to get your opinions on, because the patrons' opinions on some of these matters is very vital for some of the decisions that we're going to make. So please check that out. And if you're not a patron, this is maybe a good reason just to check it out. You know, pledge $1 just to take part in this kind of a little bit of a extra sub-community in the group here.
Yeah, patrons really showed that they want to support the SwitchCast and the community behind it, so we want to do what we can to take your feedback, and you're essentially working as our bosses here. Yeah, and so don't forget to check it out. That's patreon.com/theswitchcast. Yeah, please, if you can, donate and participate.
And I wanted to follow up with, we had the first round of our Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Switch Cup last week, and the second round is coming up actually tonight, and I'm surprised how well the first round went off. I expected a lot more problems.
Yeah, honestly, when round one happened, everyone just jumped on the Discord. They were all really surprisingly organized, and there was a lot of independent action going on, and everyone handled it super well.
And I was also worried because the way that we are organizing these races, because we want to have, a certain set of races that only a certain number of players participate in. And I don't think the game actually is really made for this style of tournament that we're doing here. So we had to kind of just wing it. We were just, but it still worked. And so there's been no problem so far. Let's hope that continues. Let me just announce actually the winners of the first 3 blocks of racers. And these are the people who will be going on and be competing in the semifinals, next week. And those are, and some of these use different names on the Discord, so I'm just going to go by their friends list account names, basically.
Yep.
We got Keaton K, Tendo, PCE B Dan, Bethel 88, Wave Too High, Dan, Mr. Renard, Cream Basic, and Decoy DY. Decoy DW.
Right.
Oh, he's the Darkwing Duck. He's the one with the Darkwing Duck avatar.
Yeah. I love that these guys some of them are actually avid members of the community, so you guys are showing off your skills. Congratulations on getting to the next round.
Yes, and even the people who didn't win said that they had a blast. It's just fun participating in a contest like this with, people that we know or getting to know. Some of these people actually aren't participating like members of the Discord or anything like that, and this was a great excuse for them to get to know members of the community a little closer and make friends.
The Discord activity has risen quite a bit. People are hopping in to do their round, but they're staying because the community is just so awesome, nice, friendly, and supportive.
We are currently gathering prizes together in preparation for more contests in the future. So as soon as we're closing in on the finish of this Mario Kart tournament, we'll probably start kicking off the next one right after that, or I'll start putting up the sign-up sheet really soon for the next one, actually, that we have planned. As soon as I have a couple of spare moments, I will definitely start the wheels moving for future tournaments.
It's going to be fun.
And speaking of fun, let's go over to the playtime and talk about all the fun things we've gotten our hands on this week.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, playtime. We all had the chance to play in the SplatFest this weekend, and I know that a lot of people in the community have been diving into that and have been fighting over ice cream versus cake in I love the level of, it's that very fine line of almost like aggressive opposition, but still, like, we're all joking and not really, like, no one really cares this hardcore about.
Yeah, I love that about this community, and I love that Splatoon supports this type of competitive attitude. People gravitate to one side or the other, and they get really passionate about it, knowing that ultimately it's just for fun in the game, but it builds that passion, and it really makes games a lot more fun because of it.
So did you partake in the SplatFest over the weekend?
So I actually didn't participate in the SplatFest on purpose.
Oh.
Yeah, so, Splatfest happened this past weekend, and Splatoon 2 is happening exactly 1 week after. So I just figured I want to make sure to cover as many other games as possible before I dedicate my life to Splatoon 2.
Fair enough. I just didn't. I mean, Saturdays are just not a good day for me to dedicate. It was a good time. It's just 50% of my weekends are spent, going out and doing stuff, and I don't really get home to play till pretty late at night. So yeah, that's just it. The weekdays are far more accommodating for me to play and things like that. So I did watch a lot of people's videos and streams playing it, and I've watched a few reviews of the game just to kind of get an idea of what to expect. And
it looked like a ton of fun. What was special about this Splatfest was that people were pairing up and grouping up, and they were able to actually play together, which is something that we weren't really able to do in previous test fires or test punches.
Right. So even if you don't have a full group of 4, you had the option of having a group of 2, and the 2 of you will keep playing together, and they'll pair you up with other pairs or 2 singles if pairs aren't available. And that's pretty cool. I like, any kind of staying together, just making sure you play with someone that you like and that you maybe even, have a little bit
cooperate.
Of a cooperative. Yeah, you have a plan with at least, So we didn't play in that, but we did get our hands on, I know that you found a game on the eShop last week that was very, very up JV alley, as we would call it.
It is. If you literally just look at the title screen or the thumbnail for this game, you can tell that it's a JV game.
Okay.
The game I was playing, we didn't assign this or anything. I was literally just browsing the eShop, looking at any news or what's going on, and I saw Implosion, Never Lose Hope, and I had to pick it up myself.
Okay, now this is, as far as I've seen, it looked like a mecha brawler game?
Right, it's an isometric action RPG game from Rayark, so the same people who made Voice.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure this is their first foray outside of rhythm games. So it's interesting to see how they went in the direction for this game.
I'm almost surprised you don't have to punch in time with the music.
That would be so cool, but no. It's a pretty standard isometric action RPG game. The premise is simple. I guess humanity was taken over by an alien race. And
naturally.
Your character just, beams down from an escaped space colony of humans in a mecha suit to pretty much investigate the aftermath of those events. So I was surprised at the amount of story there was in this game. That's just a premise, but no, there's a continuing running thread of story that's going on. And it's all voice acted.
Oh, cool.
Which is, it's pretty impressive. The game's primary focus obviously isn't the story, but the action. But it was a really refreshing and surprising take on it.
What's the combat like?
Yeah, so if you guys don't know, Implosion was originally a mobile game that's been adapted to the Switch. And,
it was, okay.
Yeah, obviously this has been happening for quite a bit, and you can definitely tell from the get-go. Since it does have that standard isometric view, it kind of harkens back to Diablo, Gauntlet Legends, and the gameplay is really simple to accommodate simplistic touchscreen controls. You control your mecha character around a linear dungeon with the control stick, and you can press a button to either quick slash, hard slash, roll dodge, or shoot your gun in a direction.
Okay.
And you just string your attacks with those buttons to generate combos.
Okay.
Yeah, so the gameplay is pretty simple, but you know, it's a real pretty visceral feeling whenever you hit people. It sounds satisfying, and it has baseline levels of fun. The areas are divided into stages, kind of like in Mario, where you go down a path, you have a stage, do the stage, then go down another path, do the stage. There's no exploration, like open world exploration. It's stage.
Do you feel like you're in now all the mechas, like they're like giant Gundam size, or are these like just robot suit type people?
Yeah, it's definitely more of a mecha suit feel than an actual Armored Core or Gundam style giant robot, which, you know, I still dig.
Okay.
But the theme of the game, honestly, if they could have swapped it out to be like a medieval knight slashing it, you know, fantasy bad guys, and it feels relatively similar.
I got you.
I just like the aesthetic of sci-fi mecha, and it does play into that aesthetic quite a bit.
Do they give you good challenges, or the different kind of enemies?
Yeah, that's a good point. The stages do have a level of replayability, since each stage has multiple badges you can earn based on your performance.
Okay.
So yeah, think if it kind of borrows from the replayability of other mobile games like Angry Birds. So you get earned 1, 2, or 3 badges based on how well you did, or if you've earned certain objectives, and you can go back and replay to get more of that. And ultimately, it just reminds me of something like Bastion and Transistor.
Okay. So, how far did you get in it? Are you able to beat it? Is it like a weekend beat game, or?
I'm surprised at how long this game was. I've been playing it for about 3 or 4 hours, and I don't feel like I've completed it quite yet. I think I feel like it might be about a 10 plus hour game, and I know that after you beat it, there's even a special mode that you can unlock that gives even more replayability. Mm-hmm. The problem, though, is that the controls do feel a bit clunky and sluggish.
Okay.
So you can tell that they have input lag just a little bit due to it coming from a mobile control.
Yeah, okay.
You know how in touchscreens you press something and then an action happens, but they have to have that bit of wiggle room based on accidental touches, and so it's not quite as seamless as something like Bayonetta or Transistor.
Right.
And they didn't make any changes of that to accommodate the fact that you're using a dedicated controller on the Switch.
I kind of feel like that was what I said back last week about Oceanhorn. It kind of had that same feeling where it wasn't really finely tuned for a Switch controller as compared to the touchscreen controls from its original mobile version. Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably something that's going to be consistent with other mobile game ports in the future. Now, it didn't hinder the gameplay too badly. It's something that I felt, but it didn't take away from the enjoyment too much. So I can say that the story's long, the gameplay lasts for a while. It does get repetitive, but that's the nature of this style of game. And for the price of $12, it's honestly not a bad experience.
Now, I have to ask, though, since this is a Rayark game, how pimp is the music?
Honestly, the music, I didn't notice it that much. It's good, and it's very fitting the genre. The sci-fi genre. Okay. But it's not something that really stood out to me as much as I expected.
They don't got rave house music going on?
I mean... No, I feel like they actively made sure that this game wasn't musically focused because they want to show that they can spread their legs into other genres as well.
See, I would think the other way. I would say that that's something they know, and you know what? Brawlers are out there. If they want their game to stand out, they should really play on their strength of music.
It would have been so cool for them to make like a rhythm brawler game.
You know, they wouldn't have to go that far, but yeah, I mean, that would be awesome too. But even if they just based it around or just put a little bit more focus on the awesome musicness the musicality of the fighting and the setting. That would have probably been a nice little claim to it.
Yeah, so that would have been cool. Like if the speed of the action almost like comes in tune with how fast the music is going and vice versa. That would be cool, but Implosion Never Lose Hope is a bit more generic than that.
Okay.
It's a bit more of a standard, tried and true entry into this genre. And while it's not exceptional, if you're itching for something like this on the Switch, there's not that much else out there right now. So for the $12 price tag, I feel like I enjoyed it.
Okay. I actually picked up a much more relaxing title. This is the first title from Ratalika Games. I want to make sure I'm saying that right. Let me double check. Ratalika. I and Me is a much more relaxed. It's a 180 in gameplay as compared to what you play, which is what I like to do on this show with you here.
We do that pretty often, don't we?
I think so, but I really think it does play to our taste because I needed a game like this. I like these relaxed, just very aesthetically focused platform puzzle games. It is in the same realm as, what was that, Braid from a while back there.
Right.
It's a nice indie game. It has its little gimmick in that in this game you are a pair of cats, I guess is what I would say. You're these little, like, these two black fuzzballs with cat ears.
Yeah, they look like little puffballs.
Yeah, they're little puffballs. They're so adorable. And you control them together in that when you move one, if you hold down left on the joystick, like, they both move in sync with each other. And you have to get them both to these, there's like two endpoints, or like these like little picture frames they look like, and you have to get them both at the same time to one of those, or, you know, they both have to go in one of those at the same time. And so the trick is manipulating them in such a way that, you know, you can get them to go to different places even though one moves in sync with the other. Sometimes they start like right next to each other and you have to find a way to kind of separate them. Sometimes there's a lot of good tricks involved in here. There's sometimes you'll run into a little magic wand thing that now makes one go in the opposite direction as the other one that you're moving and controlling. You have to take advantage of, like, oh, there's a wall here, so if I hold down right while Cat A is in the wall, Cat B will still keep going to the right. Things like that. But there's a lot of really nice aesthetic and, I would say, poetic additions to the game.
Interesting. Poetic.
Yes. It definitely feels like that because the game has, between every stage, this like one or two lines of verse that has this weird arc in the storyline where it starts out just about like saying things like, oh, you know, the world was dark and I was alone. That might be like right before one stage, and then you do a stage and then but then I found my other self. I despised this other self. I grew to love this other, you know, like things like that. And they go on, and it kind of tells this very cryptic story. And I'm not really sure even what to make of it. I would love to find a Reddit thread of people trying to like break apart what this poem that goes throughout the game. Yeah, really, because I have some theories and I don't want to spoil anything because I think that's part of what compelled me to play through it. And I did play through the entire game, actually. I got to the end.
Okay, and so the end of the game didn't clarify necessarily what those passages meant?
Not really. The ending is still definitely cryptic, and I won't, like I said, I won't spoil anything, but it definitely left me feeling melancholic. But it actually compelled me to start playing certain stages over, because there are these little extra passages that are kind of like the bonus items you try to get while you're going through the stages, and they're not required, but they're usually like an extra challenge if you're trying to get through a certain stage like that. The game overall is broken up into these seasons, and each season has its own kind of additional challenges that they throw at you. First off, it's just kind of plain in the spring, and then summer adds more of the, you know, crisscrossy or the different elevators, and then winter adds this whole weird and really crazy challenge of the areas of the screen that you can't see unless there's like a lantern there.
So each season adds a little bit of stage variety to the game.
Yeah, and some of the ways they challenge you near the end is really mind-boggling, because it's like I'll just give you one example of one of my favorite stages. It's almost like the stage is split in two, and the left side of the stage, you can see your character, but you can't see the enemies coming down. And on the right side of the stage, you can see the enemies coming down, but your character is invisible. And you know that everything's in sync, but you still have to like remember, okay, if there's an enemy here on the right side, that means my guy on the left side can jump over him now. But at the same time, like, you know, you have to keep in mind where your invisible hero is, and it's just really stresses your brain in weird ways, and I think it's really, I don't know, it was fun, it was interesting, though definitely a bit short. As I said, okay. I have beaten the game, and I think this was a $10 game. Could you double check?
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
It was $10.
Yeah. I think it was worth it in terms of, I'm still playing some extra challenge levels that you unlock after you beat everything and you get all those bonus items. But I mean, some people might not appreciate it enough to feel that, you know, I mean, that's 90 stages. It was 90 stages in all. Some are definitely shorter than others, but you might not be happy with a game that you beat in a single week like that. So that's up to you guys, but I thought it was pretty fulfilling, and I thought it was a nice first entry for this company on the Switch, and it was something interesting and different. It's got this really nice music that just relaxes you while you play too.
Yeah, so it looking at the screenshots and gameplay videos of it, it really feels like Braid. It really pulls from that feel and aesthetic, I think. Yeah.
It's definitely in the same world as Braid. I like the music better. I'll say that because again, it's a little orchestral. It doesn't loop as much as Braid did. It has, and it also has some good vocal pieces, especially at the beginning of like, major scenes or when you switch seasons. And I felt that it put me in a good mindset while I played it. I definitely enjoyed it, but I needed a game like this. We've been playing a lot of very like stressful high action games lately, and I needed a chill out game.
Yeah, we've been playing lots of more intense games and competitive stuff, and we'll be diving more into that with Splatoon, so this is a good break from that, it seems.
Yeah, but what's not a good break from that is the other game that you've been playing this week.
Yeah. So, speaking of competitive and frenetic games, Astro Duel is the other game that I've been playing, and it's fun. It's definitely a game.
It's definitely a game.
Yes.
So that's Astro the Fox Duel quote from JV. Definitely a game.
Astro Duel is essentially an updated version of the original Asteroids game on the Atari. So your character is a little triangle ship that controls exactly the same way as the original Asteroids. The big difference of this game is that it's primarily focused on multiplayer deathmatch instead of just a single player mode. So instead of just killing asteroids for points, your primary focus is to kill the other players, by shooting them with your bullets. There are two primary modes in the game. One that's Ship Hunter and one's Pilot Hunter. So Ship Hunter is when you shoot someone and hit their ship, they die. With Pilot Hunter, when you shoot their ship, a little small pilot pixel art guy comes out, and you have to kill that guy too in order to cinch it.
Right, and if I swear seeing the videos, and they're sneaky and they can move around. They might be hard to hit, but if they survive long enough, they respawn as a ship, right?
Right, exactly. And the pixel graphic, it's definitely pixel graphics. Mm-hmm. And I actually like that type of style where, they use pixels for all of the graphics, but each individual pixel block isn't tethered to a grid. You know how some games, it's even if it's pixel and modern, it's still tying its movements to a grid.
Okay.
Yeah, in this case, all the animations are smooth and crisp, and it's pretty. And it's kind of bloody.
Oh, really?
So when you kill a ship, the pilot pops up, and you can either shoot the ship with the pilot with your bullet, or you can just straight up ram into them. And once you ram into them or kill them, they splatter in pixel blood.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's visceral in that way, and I actually like it. And it's not super explicit where it'd be something you'd want to maybe avoid showing to kids. It's a lighthearted level
cartoon violence.
Yeah, it's very slight amounts of gore.
Okay.
You can divide up into teams and bring yourself in comps, or 1 to 4 players, 1 to 6 players, and it's primarily focused as a multiplayer game. You're not getting this game for a single player experience. I enjoyed the game, but there's nothing really there that would bring you to play it by yourself.
Okay. It's a pure... It's really designed for that multiplayer experience.
Yes, it's purely local multiplayer, so you can't play online with friends. Leaderboards aren't that big of a thing, and it's such a light multiplayer game. Multiplayer Astro Duel is definitely fun, and it's something that I would love to bring around with me. And if I have 5 or 10 minutes to kill with a friend or two, I could plop it down on tabletop mode, hand over my Joy-Con, and play a multiplayer round with people. But it's not something that's long term, and it could definitely get repetitive over like a 30 minute to hour long play session.
How many different arenas are there in the game?
I don't know the exact number, but they cycle through with different rounds with each round. And
so you don't pick the stages. It just kind of
don't pick the stage. You start the game, you get thrown into a stage, and then you go. And then once that round ends, then you get sent into a different stage. And I've been starting to see repeat stages, so it doesn't look like there's that many maps overall. I do like the scoring system, though.
Well, how many have you seen then? Like about at least just
maybe around 10.
Okay.
Like 9 or 10. It's not in. It's there's enough where there's diversity, but it's not an overwhelming amount of maps.
Okay.
Which is it's just fine for what it's supposed to be. I mentioned a second ago that I like the scoring. Obviously, since it is a deathmatch primarily mode, there's the whole king-making concern where everyone can just choose to gang up on one person, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but in this game, they circumvent that by scoring based on how many people you kill. So, if you're a little guy in a ship, you want to win by killing people, as opposed to being the last man standing.
I see.
So if someone starts killing people more often, everyone else wants to kill that person who's in the lead so that they are dead and won't have a chance to gain more points by killing other people.
What's the respawn time? Is it instantaneous, or does it take like 10 seconds or so?
There is no respawning in this game. If there's one round and everyone spawns at the same time, if you die, you're out for the rest of the round.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
And then once there's one last person standing, the round ends, and then everyone is scored. Then it goes to the next round until about 10, whoever gets to 10 kills first, or X number of kills first wins.
Okay. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So it's balanced in that way, but ultimately, it's $15. And if you want to have a pick up and play very quick multiplayer experience, this is good, but it's very lean for what it is.
I see. Now, can all 6 players play on that one Switch?
Yes, you can connect 4 Joy-Con and 2 Pro Controllers, and that gets 6 players. There's also a cool mode where you can play 4 players on just the touchscreen on the table.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that you have 2 buttons, 2 touchscreen input little pads on each corner where you can turn your asteroid guy to the right, and it's continuously moving forward, and then the left button would shoot. So everyone has their fingers on the touchscreen and can share the single tablet on the table to play. And it seems like a really nifty, gimmicky mode, but
Yeah,
it doesn't add that much.
You know what it reminds me of? And this is I feel like at least once a week you remind me of a game that I feel like should come to the Switch now. It had a gimmicky multiplayer on 2 players on one Vita, if this gives it away. It had pixel graphics, but it was a really cool multiplayer game. Nidhogg.
Yes, Nidhogg. I feel like Nidhogg had a lot more excitement to it than this.
Yeah, the old Nidhogg was a very like tense fencing game, and had that whole almost like that football field of you're running for the goal and then you're trying to dodge the sword your opponent throws, and you had a little fence here and there.
Right, and for some reason, Nidhogg garnered a lot of hype, and there was a community that was built around it for a while. And I don't think this is something that would really spawn that.
I see. Yeah, no, I'm not to just go on, but that also, it had that mode where you could both play on the same thing using the controls. It was gimmicky, but it worked in that case. I think it was just enough control for each player. So anyway, that's just my thing. I would like to. In fact, I think that will come to Switch sometime in the future. I feel like
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I feel like it would be a good transfer over. I heard there's a Nidhogg 2 in the works, so maybe that.
Nidhogg 2 is coming out, and the people who developed Nidhogg said that Nidhogg 2 on the Switch just made sense, or it makes sense. So, yeah, I expect Nidhogg to come out, though we're talking about Astro Duel, and it's already out. $15 is a bit of an ask.
I guess. I mean, if you have the friends to play that with. I mean, I guess that's a game that the value is in how many people will you be able to get to play and how often.
Right. And I feel I was able to get at least 4 people to play. And the frenetic chaos mode of 6 players with a heightened number of power-ups is where it gets most fun. But I feel like it might not sustain the fun over more past an hour. So it's up to you guys to think if $15 would be worth something like this.
Okay. And just to close out our playtime, I've got what is probably our second of a long series of accessories that we're going to have the chance to review. HDE has been kind enough. They've not only sent me the backpack that I talked about last week, this hard Joy-Con covers that I want to talk about now, but they're going to be supplying us with a few different items for us to talk about in the weeks to come. Yeah, exciting.
Now, what's interesting, you just mentioned, these aren't silicone covers, they're hard covers.
Yes, and those do have some very distinct advantages. It definitely has a couple of downsides too, but the main advantage of these hard covers are first off, they clip on pretty easily. They come in, each cover is 2 pieces. So if you have a full Joy-Con cover, it's 4 pieces. They snap together around, your Joy-Con halves, and they add, since they are hard, they are able to add, just by a little contour in it, a little more grip to it. Like it's almost like there's a little extra thickness in the back to make it feel like more of a controller, because the Joy-Cons are nice, but they're perfectly flat and they're rather thin, and that's part of the design. That makes sense for them, but it's kind of nice to feel like I'm holding something a little more, that fills my hands while I'm using them.
Right.
The downside is that they're kind of hard to take off. It takes a little practice. I've gotten used to it. I kind of know how to do it a little fast now. And the reason that I have to get good at taking them off, though, is that they cannot fit into a Joy-Con grip. At least not the ones that I have.
Really?
Yeah, they cannot fit into the Joy-Con grip, so I do have to take them off. They're really made for portable mode and for, if you're just going to use, loose mode or share the Joy for that matter.
Right. I can definitely see how the hard shell covers prevents you from using the Joy-Con grip. Considering how difficult it is to take out every time, I feel like if you use the grip a lot, this might not be something you'd want to get.
Right. That's my only reservation really about it. Then again, I don't know. I haven't used any silicone grips. I don't know if that's a problem for any kind of grip
in general.
Yeah, like because the Joy-Cons fit pretty perfectly into the grip. I don't know for a fact that you could have any kind of cover on the Joy-Cons and they'll still fit into the grip. But I believe you are getting your hands on some silicone controller covers in the near future.
Yes, I am. And that's something I'll definitely investigate once I get them in.
Yeah. It's a simple little addition, but if you're interested and you want to see them and maybe pick up your own, there's going to be a link to this item and the others that we've reviewed in the show notes. So you could check those out. And thank you again, HDE, for providing us with these accessories.
Yeah, I do have to say, if I were to put a grip on a Joy-Con, I feel like a hard grip would be better for me because I just don't like the possibility of how slippery and moving the silicone grips are.
The main thing for me is for any grip, I don't know whether I'd prefer the hard or the silicone myself, but I'll just say this. The main reason I would suggest anyone to get these is if you play with other people and or you do a lot of sharing the joy, and those other people have greasy hands and maybe they aren't as
careful.
Yeah, as careful as you are. I think
Hygienic.
These are good because especially I go to my SwitchFest, and guys, I love everybody who comes to the SwitchFest. We have fun, but you know what? We got some sweaty people who come down there, and I pick up my Joy-Con after them, and I'm like, I'm pretty obsessive at this stuff, but I'll take what do they call those? Like a wet wipe, basically, and I'll wipe it down sometimes at the end of the night because I like to keep it clean. I don't want to have those little grease marks on my controllers, and having a little cover grip protects it from that.
There's no shame or insult to that.
Yeah.
It's just Joy-Con maintenance, and it's part of standard maintenance for a console.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna share controllers with people, I feel like this is a very common situation.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Joy-Con have so many readily available grips is a bonus, if anything.
Yeah, no, definitely. I do suggest grips in general, covers in general for the Joy-Cons, especially if you're passing them around. And hopefully we'll get an idea of what the different pros and cons of the different types are over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, that's everything we've gotten our hands on, literally. And so let's move over to the news rundown for the week and talk about all the exciting new things that are happening in the Switch world.
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, news rundown. So I think the biggest surprise we had this week is that we kind of expected this would come out sometime around the release of Splatoon 2, but without any kind of warning, Nintendo dropped the Switch Online app for smartphones on us.
Yeah, and it's had a pretty negative reaction from the Nintendo community. It dropped. We don't have access to the full functionality, so we can't be completely educated about how we're approaching this thing. But there are a lot of trepidations involved with this app so far.
Okay, I see. I downloaded the app. I've taken a look at it, and obviously, you can't do much with it yet because it's not really linked up to any games, and the only game that is going to use it right now is a game that's not out until tomorrow. So it might be a little premature, but I guess people are excited. They're like, oh, we got this app, and they expected to start using it and start doing some cool stuff with it. But Nintendo's like, no, this is just the thing. Features will be unlocked as games will start to use them.
Well, so far, the people's biggest trepidation is based on what has been covered in the FAQ of their website. So a lot of the stuff and the limitations of the Switch Online app are some things we already knew. We knew that the Switch audio wouldn't be tunneled to the headsets if you're using the Switch app. That's something we knew, but now people are really understanding its impact now that the app is out. And people's primary frustration is that when you have the Switch Online app open and you're in a voice lobby, you have to keep your phone on. If you turn off the screen, it cuts off the voice chat.
Oh,
if you receive a text, it cuts off your voice chat. If you receive a phone call, it cuts off the voice chat. And that's something that really frustrated a lot of Nintendo fans.
Okay. All right. That's something that is something to be concerned of, sure. I think that people need to at least understand that this is, it's an app. It's going to have updates. I wouldn't freak out too much yet. We have to see it in action when the game comes out. And maybe, Nintendo hasn't made this kind of app before. No one's done this kind of app before to accommodate a console. There's going to be some mistakes. I'm totally ready to find out what other weird little glitches and problems with it we're going to experience. But I'm fairly sure, since this is such an important part of the Switch experience moving forward, there's going to be big updates to it as we go, and they're going to fix some problems if they're listening. I mean, I have pretty strong confidence that they're going to be listening to the things that people say, and we can expect updates to fix those problems.
So I definitely agree that we need to live with this Nintendo Switch Online app just a little bit so we can formulate a more complete opinion. But honestly, I've done a lot of iOS and Android app development, and I know a lot of people in our community have shared the sentiment. Using voice over IP features in the background of your phone isn't difficult. It's really easy and well documented functionality to do. I believe Prince David from our Switch community detailed this really well. And I have personal experience of this too. That's not something that's difficult to figure out. The primary reason why I'm a little annoyed by this is that it's on the FAQ, and it's something that really will eat up the battery if you have to keep your phone open.
Yeah, the screen, everyone knows, like, the screen just being on is traditionally the biggest battery drain
concern. Yeah, exactly. And if you're going to play for 30, 45 minutes to an hour and you have the screen open the whole time, that's going to chew through battery really quite a bit, and it's a cumbersome experience overall.
It makes it so that the only place that you could feasibly use that for any extended period of time is at home when it's plugged in.
Exactly. Right. If you're on the go and you're at a Starbucks and you're pulling Wi-Fi, it's going to be very difficult to have a continued online experience without a battery or anything like that.
Mm.
That being said, a lot of the other features that people are complaining about are stuff we already knew about in the past. We knew that we couldn't funnel the Switch audio to your headphones. That's something that we already knew.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something we necessarily should be surprised by. And ultimately, with all this news, we do have our Discord chat readily available for you guys to use for voice communication. For now, if you don't like the functionality that's been promised of the Nintendo Switch Online app, at least for now, there are substitutes that you can take advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, the Discord app on the phone, I have used that for voice chat in a lot of games in the past, even games that were running on the very same phone that gave me the app was on. So it obviously will work in a situation where you have your phone, you have your headset, and you're playing on the Switch. Obviously, you can't hear the game's audio if you have the headphones on for the Discord chat, but that's not a bad trade-off, I think. And, the community will, it's also think of the Discord as a matchmaking room. You can find other people who are looking to play with you, or people who are looking to play maybe in a match against you as well. And I think that will suffice, especially for the early days of Splatoon.
Yeah, and on a more positive note, because we got to a really negative place there. The SplatNet features look really fun. I love that you can pull up your Splatoon statistics on your phone so that you can immerse yourself in the game even if you're not actually playing the game. And that's a great feature that I want other games to take advantage of in the future. So there's still a lot of functionality that we haven't experienced yet. We don't know how seamlessly all the lobby making and notifications work. So by the time Splatoon comes out and the full features are readily available for us to play with, we'll probably get back to you next week.
Yeah, I think that it's best for everyone to save judgments until next week, and then you can get more of an idea of at least what works. Because right now, obviously, bad things will be more prevalent when you can't see all the good things that work, and there's no counterbalance to the complaints yet. So yeah, definitely next week we'll give it a more full judgment.
And I can say right now, having voice over IP features working in the background for this app is something they can patch later.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not something that is restricted, and it's something they can update the app for. Mm-hmm. So there's still room to hope as a Nintendo fan for this.
So moving on, we have the Nyko Clip Grip, which I just thought was a really cool new peripheral that was being put out there, and this actually works with something with the Switch Online app in that it is a grip to clip on to your Joy-Con so that you can keep your iPhone connected and facing you while you're using the app. And so it's just a cool little idea, and I've used things like this in the past. It's kind of like your NVIDIA Shield, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool, actually, though the weird part is that it only works in landscape mode, and the Switch app is only in portrait mode.
That is true.
So, you'll have to look a little sideways to get this, but it's something that at least keeps your phone in a place that's easy and convenient to get to.
Yeah. Honestly, I would be surprised if they did not make the Switch app at some point be able to convert to landscape mode, especially because I feel like some things like this are going to be pretty common, or some setup like this. People have their phone propped up so they can, look at things.
Yeah, there's a community pulse question that delves deeper into this topic, and obviously people really want to hear our thoughts about this. So we'll go a little bit deeper in community pulse now that we'll have more pointed questions.
Yeah. Ubisoft just made an announcement that they are planning more Switch titles, quote, quite soon.
Okay.
A lot of speculation over what these could be.
Yeah, we'll just take a look at all of the Unreal Engine games that Ubisoft has been developing and see what those are, because that's probably what's most feasible to bring over to the Switch.
Yeah. And you took a look at the parental controls app update.
Yes, so I actually really like how Nintendo's handling the parental controls. You have a Nintendo Switch, but you also have a third-party app you can keep on your phone so that you have parental controls that you can manage a separate Switch on without being on the Switch itself. The new update lets you check daily and monthly game time per person, how much non-gaming time they spent on the console, and average play statistics, etc., etc. Now, what's really interesting about this is that it tracks how much time is spent with parental controls disabled.
Ooh.
So the implications there are if people disable parental controls on their Switch, you can keep track of that now. Interesting.
I just like this time tracking thing, because I could totally see that as a great way for a parent to be, to basically have like an allowance and say, look, you get 8 hours of gaming this week. All right. And if I see that you've gone over that, then, I take it away next week. It's just like you teach them a little responsibility and kind of keep it under control. That's pretty cool. That's a nice tracking feature. There
was even that really adorable Bowser and Bowser Jr. video detailing the features of parental controls. And I thought that was a charming video that showed off the features. And it's cool that it's there, and it's cool that it's separate. And as if you guys are parents, this is something you might want to consider looking into.
Yeah, I actually found that app before the Nintendo Switch Online app came up. That the parental controls one came up first on my list.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. We have a few more little Splatoon 2 details that came out from people, especially who got to play the game as a preview. I thought this little detail was pretty cool.
Yeah, so if you rage quit from a game, or if your connection drops out for some reason, there is a pretty sassy message that comes out from the game. It says, quote, "Your previous online play session didn't end naturally," which is pretty suspicious. If this keeps happening, we're going to have to block you from playing online for a while. Make sure your internet isn't busted and try again. Which is kind of hilarious. Yeah, I love that they're just out about how suspicious it seems. And that it flat out tells you that you shouldn't mess up your internet on purpose and to try again.
Yeah, usually companies are very, soft about this kind of thing.
Yeah, they hem and haw around it, and or they don't even address it directly. But yeah, this is awesome.
It's just like you said, it's sassy. It's sassy. And as we know from Mario Smash Brothers, that they can drop the banhammer on people, and even if you're not totally blocked, maybe you'll end up at some point in, what do they call that, when you're stuck with other people who drop out of games, and you can only play them.
In the levers queue or the silenced queue, that type of stuff.
And you're only playing other people who like to rage quit, and you're just, you'll never have a real game for a very long time.
Yeah, so guys, don't rage quit. Just play out the game.
And you build up XP regardless. I mean, you don't have to win to advance your character, so you might as well finish the match and earn whatever XP you can from it.
Right, and matches are generally 3 minutes long anyway, so it's not like it's something that's you're gonna be stuck with for an extended period of time.
I do love the Splatoon 2, though, merch that has been coming out in preparation for the game. These inkling towels that just wrap over your head, and they have the tentacles coming off of it that make it look like a inkling. It's pretty cute.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But what I like are the Splatoon 2 dually water pistols that are coming out.
That's so perfect.
Yeah, so if you want to cosplay as an inkling, grab these dualies, grab that hat, and just go for it.
Yeah. In non-Splatoon news, we have, I don't know, again, this is totally rumorville, but the circumstances were enough that it's worth mentioning that someone saw on the Spanish Amazon site, there was a listing for Fire Emblem Fates Complete. And there was a display. The item was listed on the Amazon, and then it was taken down. The only suspicious kind of thing about this is that the art that was shown on the box is actually a piece of fan art. It's not an official piece of art that was used, which it could just be that the person who posted the item was like, I got to find something to post on here, and they just grabbed whatever they could. But it could also just be totally, not a real thing, and that's why it was taken down immediately.
Yeah, I feel like the timeline for it is a little bit tricky. It's estimated to release November 17th.
Yeah.
So that time frame might seem a bit bogus.
Well, if it's just if it's a Fire Emblem Complete, I would imagine that would mean, I mean, I guess that is pretty close. We haven't got any announcements. That would be a little weird, but it would make sense in just that if it's pretty much all three of the DS or the 3DS versions of the game put together, maybe a slight facelift for the Switch, or even not. If it's just all three games put together and you could download them on the eShop, that would be feasible.
Right, it's feasible. I don't know if this is going to pan out, but honestly, if this does come out, I'm getting it.
I would get it if I could transfer my save data from the 3DS version and continue on the, use my save data so I could beat the other side of the story and then go on and play the third story.
I'm wondering if that prerequisite would be removed in this version.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Too. All right. So down the pipe, we have a bunch of games that were announced coming down the line. Though the first and foremost of these is a game that I feel like I'm so surprised this game does not already exist. I thought this came out like 8 years ago, but apparently it's still in the works. Kingdom Hearts 3? Is that really not out yet?
It's not out. They
for anything.
Literally just announced that it's coming out in 2018.
Okay, so 2018.
It's not even out in the PS4 or Xbox One yet. And we don't even know if that's going to pan out either.
So Kingdom Hearts 2, right? That was a PS2 title, right? I played that
Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts 2 came out in 2005.
Wow.
That's been 12 years.
Okay. And supposedly they've hinted that a Switch version would soon follow the release of the PS4 and Xbox One versions of it. But I honestly, I guess if it's coming down 2018, that's fine. But honestly, I have no idea how long this game actually is going to take at this point. When a game's already 12 years old in the making, it's probably pretty easy for them to say, in another 6 months, we don't care.
Yeah, it's 2018. They don't even have whether it's early or late 2018. Right. So I'm not holding my breath for this whatsoever.
Morphite. This was a cool looking sci-fi game that was announced for September 7th. Have you checked out this trailer?
I'm looking at the graphics and it's pretty neat. It's very polygonal.
Yeah, it has like I can't even think of it, but yeah, polygonal is just the art style, very bright colors. Kind of reminds me of a out of this world kind of setting.
It looks like a polygonal transistor with, a first-person gameplay, first-person shooter gameplay.
Well, it looks like it shifts around. It has multiple types of gameplay. There is first-person shooter, and then there's parts where you're in a spaceship, it looks like, and you're, controlling that as well. So it looks like it has a few different tricks up its sleeve.
Yeah, so maybe a little bit of No Man's Sky.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Maybe a little bit. That's pretty cool looking there. We've got RBI Baseball 17 coming September 5th. Baseball, I really can't explain more than that. It's a new baseball game.
Yep, yay, baseball fans.
Go Jets. 90s Super GP. This is a racing game based on a classic arcade racer that came out under a different name. It used to be called 90s Arcade Racer. And
which makes sense.
It was supposed to come out on the Wii U eShop, but this is another one of those titles that jumped ship over to the Switch.
Which is pretty standard, so yeah, that's not surprising.
It kind of reminds me of Daytona. Let me put it that way. That's the style and the look of this.
Daytona!
Ultra Hyperball, that was also shown off this week. This is a possibly pretty fun little multiplayer game with a weird twist. It's all I could tell from the video is it has something to do with, so you're pixel people and you're bouncing some ball in the air. And I guess you're trying to keep it afloat, but when it lands, it explodes, and I think anyone who's near it gets hurt or taken out of the game. I don't know, but it has a lot of flash and flare for a pixel game, and it looks like there's a lot of 4-player action going on here. I'll just say, check out this trailer. It looks like a game that has a lot of fun potential.
Yeah.
And Starlink. Okay, now Starlink, Battle for Atlas. This just looked to me at first like another, space shoot 'em up 3D action adventure game, whatever. But then I saw they cut into this trailer here what I can only describe as a more grown-up version, maybe slightly more grown-up version of the Skylanders formula. In that you attach to your controller this whole spaceship. Did you see this thing?
It looks like it plays onto like Lego dimensions where you put together the pieces of something and then they scan it, and supposedly what you put together is put into the game. Yeah.
And if you want to change your weapon loadout or your gear, you like physically will take off parts of your starship and equip new parts, and then they will, it'll scan that, and that is what your ship will have in the game.
Yeah, honestly, the game looked pretty cool from the trailer, but this toy to life functionality really intrigues me, and I want to see how this goes in the future.
I feel
this
like
is from Ubisoft, so this is from a development studio big enough to support bigger toy to life games. So,
is that what they call that technology?
Yeah, Toys to Life.
Okay, interesting. I guess that's a pretty catchy name there. I could see this catching on with some people. It doesn't look like a game that I will get into. I don't need things like this. I'm not the toy collector, but yes, people like GV will love it, and I think it will. It has that cool collection feature, and it's not necessarily like, Disney characters, a little cute Spyro-y, dragon-y thing. So that could definitely be a good next step for this genre, I guess. And the final down the pipe we have is a game called Sydney Hunter and the Curse of the Mayan, which is coming to the Switch sometime in the future. It was just announced. I really don't know anything about this game other than it's just approved. It looks like a platformer-y, it looks like some sort of 80s cartoon kind of, run and jump game. That's all I could say about that.
Yeah.
All right, and the new releases, just to go over again, last week we got the Fatal Fury Special, Damambo, Death Squared, I and Me, and Levels Plus, Addictive Puzzle Game. That's part of its name. This week, obviously, we're getting Splatoon 2, and if anyone wants to play that, you're in the right place. Definitely join our group. Boost Beast, though, is also coming out. This is a beat-em-up puzzle game, it's referred to as. In the trailer, it's looks like a combination of, a match 3 puzzle game with a few different twists mixed in there with this really silly storyline. Did you see the story?
Yeah. It's interesting. It has a very silly, cartoony art style. You just got to see the trailer to understand what's going on with the story. But I like that you're throwing hordes of little cutesy creatures at the opponent, and each little block that you score in your puzzle becomes a unit that you fight with, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and the thing that you're fighting, apparently a virus from outer space has turned all humans into zombies, and now you, as the king of the dogs, has amassed an animal army of different creatures to fight the human zombies off. It's pretty hilarious.
This is from Arc System Works, so, they have so many quirky games like this.
They are quirk, yes.
Yeah, they are quirk incarnate.
And next week's titles, we have 2 eShop ones coming up. We have Beach Buggy Racing and Samurai Showdown, the original. So, yeah. So if you haven't gotten enough Samurai Showdown, you can go back and start where it all began.
Yeah.
All right, shall we shift gears into the Community Pulse?
Yes, let's.
All right, everybody's second favorite section of the podcast, Community Pulse.
It's all up to you guys to decide which one's your first.
Yes. So why don't you take us down this path here, JV?
All right, so let's start with David Sedai. what would your dream features be for the new Nintendo Switch Online app? So obviously, voice over IP functionality while the phone is turned off. That would be great. But I also would love in-game messaging. Mm-hmm. Messaging in the app.
Yeah, that's perfect. Right. You just use it as a place to organize your group like that would be great. I would like to see the app be able to have some game-specific features. Again, these are dream features, you said, not practical ones. But I'm going to go and say I would wish, like, maybe for Splatoon 2, it could have, let's say, a feature that let you look at the maps and maybe draw, like, circle things on there, or, like, draw battle plans and say, like, look, this is where we got killed last time. I want to, I want you, and you draw a little line. I want you to go up on this place and this vantage point. I need you to defend there, and this is the area we need to control. Like, do that little play-by-play kind of, like, sports thing with it.
Okay, so if we're going a little bit more far-fetched,
you gotta go
there. With our dream features, I would love to be able to have in-app spectator modes.
Oh, all right.
So if our SwitchCast Discord group starts playing with each other, I want to be able to hop into their lobby from my app and maybe see the map and see their little dots moving around and figuring out how everything is going while I'm in the app. I feel like that would be such a cool feature to have.
Yeah. All right, cool. There we go. But I think, I would imagine, or I would like to see specific features like that for different games to just really help you kind of things that probably wouldn't make sense to have on the games themselves. They could throw them in the app and just add a little cool, fun option.
Now, going back to a little bit more practicality, I would love a feature where it would automatically generate a private lobby for the people you join with online matchmaking. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to have a private lobby to voice chat with people. I think that would be great. Yeah, text messaging within the voice app would be great so that you can take advantage of that Nyko clip grip. Right in front of you, you can see the messages and notifications in the app while you're playing the game.
Why you gotta be so practical, JV?
Well, because someone's got to be on the technical side,
I don't
Casey.
think we need to be real. We need to be head in the clouds, go through life like a dream. Jeff Clark wrote us, if the online app is garbage, is that the beginning of the end for the Switch? I mean, look.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yes. The future of the Switch is entirely dependent on the success of this app.
Because nobody's been playing the Switch up until now when we haven't had the app period. No one bought the Switch because they were looking forward to this app. No one bought it because, it's not good now. But when that app hits, that's when the Nintendo Switch is going to be good. No, it'll be disappointing, but you know what? As we said before, you can update an app. If they got everything wrong, in a month, they could come out with an update that just renovates it. Because if no one uses it and we complain, and they do have a lot of eggs in that basket, they're gonna fix it. So even if it's not great now, it has potential down the line. And even if we never use it, we'll be fine. We'll use Discord, we'll do other things, and we'll still have fun. It's not something that anyone was really banking on making the system amazing.
Now, I do want to say, Jeff, we were snarky a little bit earlier, but your question is totally valid. There have been a couple of reports of people selling their Switch because they think this is a sign of things to come. So that sentiment is not unique. People are, thinking that because of how poorly, quote unquote, poorly Nintendo handled the app, that the Switch doesn't have a future. And I think that's a little silly. It's a little premature right now. Sometimes.
All my snark is devoted to those people. There we go.
And so Wave from our Discord chat asked, as Nintendo Switch owners who use and enjoy playing with a Switch, what is the best way for Nintendo to handle the situation to the fans? Should they be very transparent and tell them exactly what's going on? Or should they stay a bit more quiet and maybe give a summary or small explanation? I feel like Nintendo's never been super transparent about this type of stuff, and I doubt they're going to change that way of being for this. People have expressed intense negativity about things in the past, and while they've acknowledged them, they never really actively addressed it in a continued basis. So, baby steps. I don't think this is something that they will be super transparent about, despite them maybe be having to, or they should be transparent about it.
Yeah, no, people like it when you're earnest with them and that you let them know, look, even if it's like, we thought this would come out by December and now it's June and it's overdue. Like, let them know, because otherwise people just speculate and start talking and they get grumpy.
Right. Imagine the No Man's Sky situation. The developers really promised such wonderful things for the game. They confirmed X and Y feature that's going to be in the game, but there were so many development problems that they couldn't get there. And they were super quiet about it the entire time until release. And then fans started realizing that all these promises didn't live up to that expectation. And since they were so quiet about that scale back, it felt like a betrayal for the consumers. And this is something that Nintendo can get ahead of by being more transparent. So they really should be. But it's likely that they won't.
Robert Andujar wrote, with the recent announcements, trailers, and character reveals at Evo, with Nintendo trying to become relevant in the competitive scene, do you think they should push for more content, whether it be a game or other reveal, in the competitive scene, or take its time? I think if you want a competitive scene, you have to take the time, because you've planted those seeds. They need to grow into something. If you keep throwing at them too much content, like, people want to feel like they know what the playing field looks like. They want to, all right, what is, who's the top tier characters, or, what's the best strategies for this game. They want to get to that level of mastery. But every time you throw in a new piece of content, it can warp and change that, playing field considerably. And you might feel like, well, now I have to reevaluate everything. So you definitely should take your time and let people kind of soak in a game for a while. I think right now, the way they've spread things out have been pretty good, because we have a fighting game with ARMS. We have Splatoon 2, so we have a shooter. And, maybe we have Pokken Tournament for a more traditional, or closer to traditional type fighting game. And they'll have a lot of bases covered, and they can let those grow for a while. And maybe just add some fun content to keep people playing it. But I don't think they should push too hard at overwhelming people with new content right away.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to announcements and reveals, Nintendo should definitely hop into big competitive tournaments and promote their games with character reveals and announcements at those tournaments. It's a lot of great coverage for Nintendo to announce a new character for Pokken Tournament at Evo, or announce a new item or mode for ARMS in CEO or something like that. It's something that builds up hype for their game for free publicity. It's not really, there's no detriment there in that aspect.
As long as you front load it, I think it's, you get it all out before and maybe just after the game comes out, and you build that hype and you get it going. But I think, and then, then make it a more steady release after that. But build up the hype, and throw all that new stuff out early on. And do what JV said. You get the hype going at things like Evo. But after that, if it's changing too much, or you add too many new characters right away, I do think it can spoil people getting the competitive scene mastery that they want so much.
Exactly. And honestly, Nintendo should be linking their reveals to tournament events, because number one, that increases viewership of their game because people are going to start to expect reveals for tournaments in the future. And two, it's free publicity.
All right, want to close this out?
Yep, and for our last one, Aldrin Cornejo said, do you think playable Salmon or Octarians will ever be DLC? Sure, I think that's definitely possible. With Marina being shown to be a benevolent Octarian, it could be something in the future.
I think that's, I would look forward to that. I think that would be a great part of the story arc. I could imagine the story arc leading to that being, at least a truce between the Inklings and the Octarians. And it would mean they could release new amiibo figures that are now Octarians that people will buy up.
Yeah, so it's a win-win if they do that.
All right, well, I think that was a pretty solid episode there, sir.
Yeah, very solid, sturdy, like a rock.
If you thought this episode was solid and enjoyable, you can let us know your approval by visiting our Patreon page, patreon.com/theswitchcast. As I mentioned earlier in the show, I go there, I give updates about the show and our inner workings with patrons, and it's where you can pledge $1, $5, $7, whatever you feel comfortable with a month, and support us so we can keep doing this, pay for servers, and more equipment to do a better show. There's also different rewards at different tier levels so that you can get something just from us for being a swell guy. Also, if you want to help us out in a non-financial matter, check out the Apple Podcasts app. You can look up Nintendo Switch. You'll find us there if you're not listening to us there already, or just look up the SwitchCast and leave us a review. 5 stars or better, and that really helps us out, gets us up on the ratings, gets more people to listen. It's a win-win for us, maybe. And of course, we've mentioned there's the Discord chat. It's probably the premier place to join the community, but there's a few other places to join as well that JV will mention. Until then, you can also email me at kc@theswitchcast.com, or you can email that guy over there,
JV@theswitchcast.com.
if you want, really. That's,
I mean, I feel like you should want
I don't know. just email Casey.
Either way, even if you don't want to email us, you can follow us on Twitter at the SwitchCast. It's the same for our Instagram at the SwitchCast as well. Now, we do have a really bustling and awesome Facebook community as well. So just look up SwitchCast Community on Facebook and you can pull us up really quickly. You know how civil and awesome our Discord chat is, and we bring that up all the time. Our Facebook community is pretty kick butt and civil and excited as well. So check that out. We do have a SwitchCast friends list that you can find friends on. We'll link that in the show notes. And thanks to the HeatleyBros for the music. Our new opening is awesome, so thank you. And until next time,
switch it up.